The esoteric breast massage actually had its beginnings in late 1999, early 2000. And it was a modality that I felt was very needed, in fact, very urgently needed. But I had to have a very deep reflection within myself. I had already introduced a number of different therapies and new modalities that needed to have their own momentum and time to be used and experienced. And I felt that as a man, bringing through a specific form of breast massage was not going to be accepted if I didn't have some form of long-standing experience of my work. So I actually tucked it away and kept it for another 7 years, and it wasn't until 2006 that we released it to what I felt was a ready group of practitioners who would understand the integrity of what was being brought through, and that they would understand and take it from there and do it, because it wasn't a modality that I could develop. The integrity of the esoteric breast massage is that this particular form of it, no man is to be a practitioner of it.
It wasn't a modality that Benhayon could develop, not because he's a man, but because he has no qualifications, and because the therapeutic claims made for esoteric breast massage are bogus. They're unsupportable. I'm Esther, and I saved that video. I saved a couple more, and I'm going to run extracts of them through this today and provide a little bit of commentary, and also provide some background information about esoteric breast massage that Benhayon is not keen to put in his current publicity.
I have never ever performed an esoteric breast massage on any person whatsoever, man or woman, and that's important to declare. And nobody can state that I have, because I simply haven't.
Benhayon feels the need to disclaim any participation in the modality because of the inevitable connotations of sleaze. Naturally, those who hear about it express suspicions and other misgivings. He's been careful to avoid being accused of practicing esoteric breast massage. However, he doesn't seem too concerned about his general esoteric healing techniques that he practices and teaches. And his esoteric healing training manuals have dozens of images like this of Benhayon with his hands on women's chests, their pelvic areas, and their buttock regions. And the healing claims he makes for these techniques are very spurious. This technique, for example, he's claiming is great for cases of rape recovery, as in sexual assault. The training manual says this one is good for sadness and for shifting sadness from the sacred chakra back to the heart. Benhayon's apologism for esoteric breast massage is inarticulate, and it deteriorates as the video progresses. He expounds his bizarre attitudes to women, their relationships, and their bodies. Now, none of that is helped by his appearance. He doesn't look healthy. He's the head of a complementary medicine organisation, and he's not looking to flash. And as you see, if you see his throat, it's kind of distracting. He has an enlarged thyroid gland. It's asymmetrical, and it's enlarged to the point where it seems that he's having difficulty swallowing. However, before we view any more, let's look at the background of esoteric breast massage and the history of its marketing. In April-May 2016, Universal Medicine UK front organisation Foundational Breast Care released a number of promotional videos. I made some strong criticisms of the promotions online, and luckily I saved the videos before the Foundational Breast Care channel disappeared within 36 hours of those criticisms. In November 2015, Benhayon made a defamation claim against me regarding a blog I'd written. And in that blog I'd written about his hands-on healing practices and his conduct with women and children. He claimed his reputation had been damaged by those statements. However, in the same publications, in the same blog, I made a lot of other serious statements about his other behaviour. I talked about his misleading advertising, harmful and false healing claims, and his predatory, exploitative and delusional behaviour. He's not suing me for those statements. So as part of my defence, it's just one part of my defence, but as part of my defence, I'm making a contextual truth argument, which says that because those things I said that he's not suing me for are true, that those behaviours, we have ample evidence of those behaviours, I can't be liable for the other things. In other words, you can't defame somebody who has been behaving publicly in such a reprehensible way. Part of the evidence of Benhayon's misleading promotions and false and harmful healing claims concerns claims made about the esoteric breast massage. From 2008 until 2012, the original Esoteric Breast Massage website featured claims that were described by Professor John Dwyer of Friends of Science in Medicine as ludicrous. Those included claims that breasts hold bad energy imposed on them by men, society, women's self-estimation, and the needs of babies. Esoteric breast massage was sold as the method for clearing that energy. The site claimed, among a number of other claims, if there is no nurturing energy in the breasts, the baby suckling will receive the milk but will not get the nurturing energy. All is energy, and if the breasts are not clear when the baby is feeding, the baby will also receive the ill energy that is in the breasts. It also claimed the modality could assist very serious gynecological conditions such as endometriosis, menopausal syndrome and ovarian cysts, and that women may need to have the massage daily in acute and extreme cases. The website was erased when media scrutiny began in 2012. Those claims were not repeated, but Universal Medicine sites featured testimonials stating that esoteric breast massages assisted endometriosis and other disorders. The testimonials are from esoteric breast massage practitioners themselves. As founder of the modality, Benhayon made no public comments on esoteric breast massage following the media reports in 2012, except to insist the modality is only practiced by women, as if that's any less sleazy. Because the therapeutic claims made for esoteric breast massage are false, with no evidence base, there's no legitimate therapeutic basis to practice the modality at all. In May 2016, Benhayon broke his silence. This video was released shortly after the second listed hearing for his defamation claim, where he attempted to have my contextual truth defence struck out. His video confirmed my concerns that esoteric breast massage is a predatory and misogynistic fraud.
But the reason for the esoteric breast massage being a modality that is practiced by women for women is for the practitioner to also bring that tenderness and connection to the woman that is the missing ingredient when we are introducing something that has been lost. So for example, the Esoteric Breast Massage, or the EBM as it's shortened, that's acronym, it's a modality that asks a woman to connect to herself. And in that connection, to bring that body to her partner, be it another woman or a man, it doesn't matter, or to their children, to her parents, whatever it may be. And not a body that is purely seen as function.
Benhayon markets his dubious product by selling a problem that doesn't exist, that women somehow become disconnected from their breasts.
So the basis was to say to the woman, look, your breasts aren't just sexual objects or things that hang off you that you tuck into a bra, or that they're not just there to feed a baby and then they've done their role and now they go back to the husband or wherever your partner may be in terms of what they're for. They're actually they're part of your body. They're part of the whole that you are, and they need to be integrated. They need to be as delicately looked after as your fingers, as your hands, as your elbows. In the same way that you look after your face and put makeup on or moisturizer, etc. Not that we have to put moisturizer on breasts, but we need to understand that all of us, down to our little pinky, our small finger, a single hair on our body, is a part of us. It's a whole of us. And for women, it's just an appendage that is there. They don't truly connect with. And I discovered this in treatment rooms, in the sense of women not truly caring deeply enough for themselves. And I knew that the modality that had been given to me by my soul was essentially what was needed. But I had to have the runs on the board, so to speak, to have the integrity to bring it, and to have a student body or available people that would have the integrity to run with it. As I said earlier, I wasn't the one to bring it through. So in about 2006, 7 years later, I got a group of women together in one of our clinics, in one of our rooms. They sat around the massage table. I had my wife, or my wife to be, but my then partner on the table. She was fully clothed, and I performed the whole technique above her. So I demonstrated the entire technique above her body, not touching at all whatsoever. It's very simple to simulate the entire technique.
He doesn't have the integrity to practice the modality. Instead, he waited until he'd gathered around him a faithful group of women investors, and those women could give an appearance of more legitimacy to the technique. And the technique wasn't difficult to simulate because there's nothing to it. I mean, how difficult is it to rub a breast?
As they practiced and treated each other, they got to feel what the science was behind this. The reconnection back to the body to make it far more holistic, so that the breast became far more integrated and back to the attunement that a woman is. The sensitivity was returned, the delicateness was returned, the nurturing aspect that the breasts bring, and the curves that they add to the woman, irrespective of their shape, the sensitivity of carrying them, how to care for them, and not just wear a bra because you've been told you're a certain size, but to search for the correct bra that can truly support them, and so that it's not just based on size, but also stitching, support, backup support, material. All of that was imparted and shared, and it was supported by the modality itself. And all this understanding coming from a man, but it's not a man that is objectifying and is fascinated or is captured sexually or otherwise to the breast. It's coming from a practitioner who understands the body of a man and the body of a woman, and in that holistic approach, I got to feel that essentially women weren't looking after that part of their body, and they just assumed that it was either for babies or for sexual attraction, and not really a very, very, very delicate part of their body that is very connected to their lymphatics and therefore open to energy and sensitivities and as I keep saying, a very delicate aspect of themselves. So that's where the modality began. It was a group of ladies, I cannot recall the exact number, essentially sitting around a massage table and me simulating above my partner, who was fully clothed, with my hands, essentially the technique and specifically what each part of the hands were doing when they were on the body. One of the stipulations that I expressed on that day was to try to avoid as much as possible the nipple area, so that there's no insinuation or stimulation whatsoever. That as light as possible on the nipple was the only stimulation, of course, apart from being very, very delicate. Of course, it's very difficult to not do that, and a lot of women, once they get comfortable, will allow that to occur. But that was one of the stimulations. The key aspect of EBM is to activate, not stimulate, but activate energy in the sides of the breast. And that essentially activates a connection to the lymphatic system, where we hold our multidimensionality, or our connection to our multidimensionality. So a woman can start to feel the subtleness of energy, the subtleties of her own delicateness, and eventually essentially connect back to her cervix, where her sacredness is. And so essentially the EBM is not the be-all and end-all. It's a precursor, or it is the introduction to a reintegration of the woman's body back to herself, and in that back to the sacredness and the grace, the power and majesty that she truly brings to the world, and in that essentially lights up the world and allows men to eventually become the true men we are designed to be. So at the moment, the world is very run by male energy, and it's completely lopsided and completely out of whack. And that was what was identified back in 1999 when I first started teaching, and essentially predicted the rise of breast cancer as a result of the energetic root cause that wasn't being addressed.
Anyone could have predicted the rise of cancer. What Benhayon does not account for is the rise in life expectancy among people in the first world. And of course, cancer incidence increases as life expectancy increases. And we see more cancer as we see a lowered incidence of other diseases and other causes of death. Either way, Benhayon is attempting to create a market for a fiction that he knows the causes of cancer and how to prevent it. And that involves following his way of the livingness.
Shouldn't a professor of university, a professor of philosophy, or a professor of medicine actually say, Serge, what you're actually saying is true, or it makes a lot of sense. Can you tell me everything you know, just in case there is something in medicine we don't know? You need 30 years of science to tell you what I can get in 1 minute. Fact. So why are you spending all that brain power and resource and lovelessness in your body and 30 years of trials when I can tell you right now, with not another cent spent on that wasting money of charity, I can tell you right now how women get breast cancer. I can tell you right now what bowel cancer is. I can tell you right now what men's problems are. Rejection. I can tell you exactly what prostate cancer, what is the cause of prostate cancer. But you'll say, no, you're a lunatic. Who do you think you are? That doesn't make sense. Where's the science in that? The people who listen and the patients who get it, that I see and I say, this is why you got it, they say, that makes sense. So when they have it, it makes sense because they're brought to their knees and they have to hear. But the person, the researcher who hasn't got cancer will say, prove it. But when they have cancer, and you can say to them, I bet you I can describe you, as I can, your lifestyle, and I can bet you that that lifestyle will be accurate, and that accuracy will tell you why you have cancer. At that moment, that person has cancer, they will listen. But if they don't have cancer, they have the arrogance. You see? If you're not brought to your knees, you're not willing to listen. And that's the problem. We have this arrogance where you can say, no, Serge, what you're saying is not correct, or it's not for me, or this is a cult, or whatever, like a lot of people do. Not a lot anymore, but many people still do. And that's okay too. But when you're brought to your knees, you know where to go to because you know where the answer is, because you heard it and you did say that was true. You were just making a choice at that time to say, no, it's not for me at this time. But it went in, because I get people calling 7 years later, 8 years later. I had a session with you 8 years ago and I hated it, but everything you said came true. Or here I am with cancer, now I'm ready. Now you're ready? If you did what I told you 8 years ago, you wouldn't have it. I say it politely, of course. And so, it is no wonder that things go wrong. We don't stand here and go, how did this lump happen? Or why am I infertile? Why can't I fall pregnant? Because you haven't been a woman for 30 years. You've been using mental energy to please your dad. You've been using male energy. You've been involved in sport, which women should never be because they're competitive. That means that their right ovary gets more powerful than the left ovary. And then they come to here, they're ready to have a child, but the ovaries are totally out of whack. Vaginal walls are thick as, and they're not a woman energetically, even though they have breasts, a vagina, uterus, and so forth. And so they can't work it out. Why can't I have a baby like other women?
According to testimonials on the Universal Medicine website, women hate the esoteric breast massages. Their privacy is invaded. They're expected to give up all kinds of private and personal information, and they're probed with questions during these sessions. They're emotionally upsetting, and they're physically confronting. According to one of the testimonials, my EBM journey started over 4 years ago when I went along because it was the new treatment for women. I remember my session very well. At the end, the practitioner asked if I could feel how numb my breasts were. Well, I think I cried for about 3 hours straight. I was indeed numb to the self-abuse I was living daily, created by my lack of love for myself. I spent the next 2.5 years attending regularly my EBMs, but it wasn't until I finally owned up and said, I don't like this. I don't like getting undressed in front of you, and I don't like you touching me, that my journey began. However, they persevere because they're put under pressure by the practitioners and their peers, and out of fear of what's being insidiously held in their breasts that allegedly cause health problems. They also feel the pressure of Benhayon's ideas about womanhood and femininity. Benhayon appeals to the mother and the martyr archetypes. In the following video, Deborah talks about her unfortunate experience of being unable to breastfeed.
So I have had 4 children, and my first child, I was quite ill, so I wasn't able to breastfeed. And I remember, this is going back, 30 years ago. And I remember the very strong, it was almost like very, very strong, almost judgment from within, where because I wasn't breastfeeding, I didn't go down that route because I just wasn't able to, and the whole trauma, it was just too much. So for myself and for the baby, it was then the most supportive part was to bottle feed, and there was such a judgment, almost like a hush-hush, that people wouldn't discuss it with me because I wasn't doing the right thing in that sense. And it was very interesting because it was something that I never had reflected on, and I'd never gone back and felt the impact of those kind of impositions that were placed. You just kind of suck it up. And
she asked the nurses to bottle feed her newborns while she was recovering from cesarean sections for the night feeds, and then sort of expresses this sentiment that she felt judged for making that request. Now, as far as I know, it's not a nurse's job to feed your babies when you're in hospital. The nurse's job is to make sure that mothers are attending to their own babies and able to relate to them properly and take care of them properly. I'm sure the other women in the ward who'd had cesareans or long labours would have liked an uninterrupted sleep too. Deborah stated something similar to other testimonials on the UN website, in that she wasn't aware of the so-called impacts of this experience until they were sold to her during the Esoteric Breast Massage sessions. There's another testimonial that says, "Before having an esoteric breast massage, I thought I was going okay. I wasn't sick or unhappy, and I was just getting on with life. I've been having EBMs regularly for a couple of months, and I've realised that how I am with myself actually stays in my body and affects how I live. What was more shocking was that I didn't even notice. After having an EBM, I could feel what was going on. I was able to choose something different, and it's been amazing getting to know what's underneath all the junk I've been carrying around." Unfortunately, women often do feel stigmatised for failing to live up to a certain ideal of fertility and motherhood. But universal medicine exploits those vulnerabilities and feelings of marginalisation. Rather than help women to resolve them, they merely impose Benhayon's sick ideas of womanhood. Deborah reinforces Benhayon's bizarre idea that in the process of trying to be a good mother, women somehow become disconnected from their breasts. What Deborah didn't disclose in that video is that she's Serge Benhayon's former wife. Deborah Benhayon is one of Serge's business partners and has worked for the Universal Medicine firm from the get-go as a financial administrator. She handles the money coming into the business, easily millions per annum. She was also closely involved in the setup of the organisation's convoluted business structure, consisting of numerous companies and trusts. The Benhayons get a great deal of their income from workshops and courses, particularly practitioner courses. I suspect the renewed EBM marketing has more to do with the marketing of courses than it does in marketing the actual practice. Originally, there were only 9 women trained in esoteric breast massage, and as far as I can tell, probably less than a handful of them, or a very small handful of them, are actually practicing the modality and deriving any income from it. And that's because, as the testimonials indicate, it's very difficult to sell. Women have to be deceived into undertaking the massages in the first place, and then they have to be persuaded continuously to keep them up. it's very unlikely graduates will be able to earn back the outlay for the Esoteric Breast Massage course. Candidates have to undertake the 5 levels of esoteric healing training courses to qualify. Universal Medicine has now added health science units to make the course look legit, but their claims to offer accreditation are bogus. According to this publicity from the Esoteric Practitioners Association, all EBM trainees and accredited practitioners automatically become concurrent members of Foundational Breast Care, FBC, the official body that oversees the delivery of practitioner training and public education in the EBM and related breast care, operating in alignment with Universal Medicine and the EPA as the governing body of practitioner standards. Now, we know that Foundational Breast Care is just another company that was set up by Universal Medicine UK business partner Sarah Williams. You can't just set up a company and call it an official body, because by definition, official means that it's related to some public or official authority. And the other thing is, official accreditation can only be offered by government-registered training organisations, and then again, only when the course has been approved by an official authority. The EBM training program typically takes 2 years to learn to rub a breast. Benhayon also uses the archetype of the martyr to appeal to women with breast cancer or women who fear contracting the disease.
But nobody's interested in that. What they want is that. They want to have all of that, and then at the end, they want that reward. Or you remove the lump. I'm not going to worry about all those non-nurturing habits that I have, which is what breast cancer is. So simple. Just women who don't nurture themselves. Could all be cured, not a good word, healed, if we just taught that a woman needs to be fragile and honour that, to be nurturing, to not pick up heavy things or turn things, to be honouring in how she feels, and to work out and negotiate rhythms in work that best suit how she is. To live a life of honouring that, and to be lovely, to be precious, and to take her time, and to be nurturing in every way, shape and form. Whereas if you taught that lady and said, yeah, you know, all those patterns that you got from grandma and from mum and they had breast cancer, sure, genetically there's a predisposition, but if you nurture yourself, if you look after yourself, if you self-love, and if you walk you, then you won't get it, because energetically there is no cancer. There is only harmony. There cannot be cancer if there's no energy. But if I change the energy, I minimize it to almost nothing, the chances of me getting the breast cancer, and I'm the generation that puts a stop to it. I'm not the lucky 1 in 4 gene, or the lucky 1 in 4 this or that, as they say in biology. That's not right. I have the choice energetically to put a stop to that, and you know what? If I have kids and I have my daughters, I'm going to teach them to nurture from day one, so that they will also walk as who they are. And you know what? In our family tree, breast cancer is history. It's never going to be repeated.
It's a day that I'll always remember, because it was almost like the first day of the rest of my life, because it was so significant an opportunity and so significant a shock. And although I can sit here and say that I knew, and I did, I knew I could feel, and that was why I was avoiding the diagnosis, the formal diagnosis, was because it was a lot of responsibility to take, to accept that I'd run and worked my body in such a way that that was the end result.
Leanne talks about how she caused her breast cancer. Benhayon says that emotions are the cause of all disease, and that love has no emotion in it. Caring for children and others is what he regards as loveless. According to Benhayon, caring for others has no personal or social benefit and can only be done at the expense of caring for oneself.
Also happy to share that one thing that I feel is quite a common theme with other women that I've spoken to who have breast cancer is that, and sometimes women generally, but certainly those that have received cancer diagnoses, and that is putting all others first. And what I learned along the way was that I didn't just put others first and myself second. I put others first and all manner of other things following that. So I didn't even take a step up onto that ladder of coming anywhere in life. I was there to work, to provide, to pay bills, and to be a good friend, daughter, mother. I cried buckets for days at how much I had neglected myself on the level of being a woman because I was so uncomfortable with the idea of honouring myself.
Leanne blames herself for failing to fit Benhayon's mould of the ideal woman. Esoteric breast massage becomes a kind of commercial sacrament for honouring herself as a woman. It's not stated in that video either that Leanne is an esoteric healing practitioner, again with a financial relationship with Universal Medicine. Universal Medicine works like a pyramid scheme, where healing clients are persuaded to take Benhayon's healing courses and workshops. That's where the real money is. Practicing on patients one-on-one doesn't bring in the bucks. Esoteric practitioners who recruit clients into the workshop cycle are rewarded with referrals and status positions in the organisation. The cancer martyrdom scam, though, leaves women vulnerable to undue influence. Universal Medicine expressly targets cancer patients. One of its main businesses, Esoteric Women's Health, has honed in on the women's health market, cashing in on women's uncertainty and anxiety around breast and gynecological pathologies, and their desperation for relief of complex disorders that are difficult to treat. The distress and desperation of cancer patients and their willingness to spend money makes them prime targets for swindlers. Universal Medicine and Esoteric Women's Health has numerous initiatives targeting cancer patients. GP Dr. Jane Barker has directly participated in these, like these breast cancer care retreats held in Lismore. But she is just one of 8 medical doctors publicly promoting Benhayon and his enterprise. It's unlikely Benhayon would be as successful in manipulating vulnerable people to become as wealthy as he is without their endorsements. As we saw in the case of Judith McIntyre, Benhayon was gifted $800,000 a month before she died, and was also the main beneficiary of her will. In total, he received about $1.4 million at the expense of her children and their dependents. In the lead up to her death, Mrs. McIntyre was cared for by members of the Universal Medicine community, including esoteric breast massage practitioner and palliative care nurse Elizabeth Dolan. The executor of her will was esoteric breast massage practitioner, lawyer, and Universal Medicine company director Sarah O'Regan. The JP who witnessed her will was Benhayon's business partner, Desiree Delaloy. Mrs. McIntyre wrote a blog about how vulnerable she was when she first met Benhayon. She'd divorced, had little confidence in managing financial matters, and had already been conned by a previous spiritual teacher. She was isolated and debilitated with chronic health problems. She blames herself for contracting cancer. To sum it up, I was lonely, struggling, homeless, exhausted, and increasingly disillusioned with my spiritual path. Then, in retrospect, unsurprisingly, I got cancer. She went to the Byron Bay Writers' Festival and met Benhayon, who'd coincidentally given a talk about breast cancer. This was around the time he began actively targeting cancer patients. Preaching his views on cancer in the Esoteric Medicine series of lectures and his book, Esoteric Teachings and Revelations. When he signed my book, although I had heard that he had a long waiting list, I told him that I wanted to see him. When he heard that my cancer was not in remission, he told me to call for an appointment. On the day I called, there was a cancellation, and he fit me in straight away. I began to see him weekly for support through my cancer treatment. In other documents, she wrote about how he treated her free of charge. He said to me that what I needed was deep self-nurturing. I didn't know what that meant at that time, but I knew I wanted to know. With only a momentary conversation, I felt that he had met me. He met me where I was, broken open, detached from the world, where no family member, friend or professional, however caring or supportive, had been able to come. Unfortunately, Benhayon made her believe her life, before becoming his follower and benefactor, was anything but self-nurturing. His customers come to believe that allowing an unqualified practitioner to invade their privacy, touch their breasts, and turn them against their families is honouring oneself. The next step is to sell the idea that cancer is a blessing.
The disease is a cleansing. The disease is the blessing. The illness and disease are showing us that there is something loving us and saying, you can't have that there because you are living in misery. And you don't understand you're living in misery because you have an arrogance that allows you to function. But you don't admit you're living in the misery. But when you get the cancer, you go, oh, now I'm going to die, so now I'm in misery, now poor me. But you were living lovelessly before that, just ignoring the fact. So 48,500 women who just got diagnosed this year, or who will get this year diagnosed with brand new cancer, will complain about the fact that they got cancer. God sucks, church didn't work, this, that. Poor me, I got cancer. Why a lot of cancer people go, but I know a lot of people that deserve it more than I do. In fact, they say that in private session. But I know so-and-so, and I've been good, and I got cancer. Sorry, madam, you've been good, or sir, but you've also been extremely loveless. And this is the blessing. So the real illness and disease out there is the arrogance, the ignorance and the arrogance, and that's what we've got to break. Unfortunately, I have to present it very unpopular as a result, but it doesn't matter, it needs to be said. Someone has to cast a reflection.